What hand tools do you actually need for woodworking? Part 1 is measuring and marking. First up, a combination square for checking the outside edges of things for square, the inside edges of things for square, marking square and 45-degree lines. This square can do almost anything that you need from any square. I don't really see a reason to get anything more than a combination square as long as you've got a good one. Don't break the bank on one of these, but also don't get a super cheap version that's not going to be accurate. I would not recommend going to Harbor Freight for a combination square because that's going to be your main square. Next up, a marking knife. I like this Japanese one from Woodcraft, but why a marking knife is so much better than a pencil is because its tip is so much more accurate and will allow you to get much better joinery and much more tight-fitting joinery with no gaps because of how much more accurate it is. Last up, for the measuring and marking section, we have a marking gauge. These are not necessary, but they're really good at scribing parallel lines either across the grain or with the grain. I would recommend getting some kind of circle marking gauge because they're much better at going across the grain than knife marking gauges. I like this one from Woodcraft, but there are definitely better ones out there. Next up, we have chisels. Now, chisels are an absolutely fundamental woodworking tool. Whether you're using them for chopping, paring, mortising, trimming, anything else that you'd use a really, really sharp blade for. I even use these to open my packages because they're so sharp. Chisels are absolutely fundamental. However, the hard part is finding chisels that are not too expensive, but hold an edge well and will take a really nice edge. And I think these Narex chisels are really, really good for that. They were $50, which puts them in a really affordable price range. I've had them for about 2 months and I've sharpened them twice and they've performed really well. I've just used a leather strop to hone them in between full sharpenings. And they take a really excellent edge. Just as good as my plain blades or any other of the blades in my shop. The handle's ergonomic. I really like these chisels. I wasn't paid anything to say this, but I really enjoyed these chisels. All I had to do was a little bit of flattening on the back, a little bit of honing on the edge, and they're sharp. I'll go over sharpening equipment later in this video, but I really recommend these chisels. But with chisels, you're going to need some kind of mallet. Whether you go with a wooden mallet or a rubber mallet or any other kind of mallet, you're going to need something so that the backs of the chisels don't tear up too badly, which is what a hammer would do. So that's why you're going to need a mallet. Next up, we got hand planes. Now, there are two main things that you need to keep into consideration when thinking about buying a hand plane. So, new versus old, and what number of hand plane do you want to get? So first, the new versus old question. If you know what you're doing, you can buy an old plane, refurbish it. However, that's really not easy to do, and so many matter of things can go wrong, and it will just not function as well as a new plane unless you're really, really good at it. So, new planes may be much more expensive, but they come ready to go. You just have to sharpen them and get them set to go. That's it. No refurbishing anything. Just sharpen and get them set. And you're done. So, I really like this Wood River number 6. It's about $300, but it goes on sale quite often actually. So, this is my favorite plane right now. So, next up, we got the discussion over numbers. What number plane do you want? And the number of a plane really just equates to its length and its thickness. So anything that's a number 4.5, a number 5.5, a number 6, a number 7, and a number 8 will be, I believe, 2 3/8 inches wide if it's a new plane. If it's an old plane, it might be different. But a number 4, a number 5, those will both be about 2 inches wide. So a wider blade will allow you to plane more surface area at a time. If you're mainly using it for edge jointing, that wouldn't really matter. But the other characteristic of a number in a plane is the length, which really, really matters. Because a short plane like this, number 4, is about 9 inches, whereas this one's like, I think, 18. So this one is going to be able to joint much longer boards than this one. And I really recommend the number 6 because it's not as heavy as a jointer plane, but it's also not as short as a jack plane. It's a little bit longer, so you get a little bit more planing distance. This can handle quite long boards. And this is my replacement for my jointer, which I sold a while ago because I didn't have much space left in my garage. So yeah, if you're getting into planes, save up for a while and get a new one. If you can, get like a Lee Nielsen or a Veritas or even a low angle jack. Those are pretty nice for about the same price as these. But I really like bevel down planes, so a Wood River number 6 was the perfect plane for me. Next up, we got saws. Now, there's a lot of things to choose from when you're buying saws. Old, or I guess I made this one, so not new, but newish. So if you're buying vintage saws, it does take a lot of preparation and work and knowledge to get them working. So if you're gonna get one Western style saw, I'd recommend getting basically this size saw, which would be the Veritas Rip Carcass saw. This saw I made myself, and it served me really well. And I recently got this little dovetail saw. So when thinking about saws, they do a lot of different things. They do joinery cuts, they do trimming, they do cross cutting, and a rip saw can basically do everything that you're gonna need. It can do little joinery cross cuts. It can even do large cross cuts, but it will be slower. Now, there's the debate between Western saws and Japanese style saws, which are pull saws. These are push saws, so they cut on the push stroke. Japanese saws cut on the pull stroke. That allows them to be a lot more compressed under tension and allows them to have much thinner kerfs, which means more accuracy. But they're also kind of harder to control because they don't have these nice handles. But they can also be easier to control because they cut on the push stroke, well, pull stroke. But it's really preference, and the Japanese saws are also quite a bit cheaper, which, if you're on a budget, I'd say absolutely get a Japanese saw. You can get both a Japanese Ryoba and a Japanese Dozuki saw from Temple Tool Co., which is a really good manufacturer, for about the same price as a Veritas Rip Carcass saw. If you can, restoring vintage saws isn't even that much. It won't even help you that much because they still can be quite pricey. But you can make your own saws for actually not that much money, but you do need a lot of knowledge and how to sharpen, how to set the back, how to make a nice handle. I did quite well on this one, but it takes some knowledge to know. So saws are very complicated, but they're also quite simple. Next up, we have sharpening supplies. Now, sharpening is a very confusing topic, but it's an absolutely essential one so that you can get all these tools sharp and working. So this $50 kit that I bought from Amazon and some other places is really all I've ever used. 4 sharpening stones ranging from 400 grit to 1200 grit, a leather strop with some honing compound, and a honing guide. That's all I've ever used to sharpen these tools. It doesn't really take much. You just set whatever blade or chisel in the honing guide at an angle, put some water on the sharpening stones, go across it, and then flatten the back, and then go over the strop. That's all you need to sharpen, and this $50 kit, $50 kit, has been all I've ever used, so it's very cheap to actually get into sharpening, and this works really well. I get all my tools sharp enough for woodworking and sharp enough to shave my arm hair and everything. So yeah, these tools are very sharp from just these simple stones, leather strap, and honing guide. Finally, we've got Workholding. Now, Workholding is absolutely essential to woodworking in general, so it's the last thing on this list. Now we got clamps, another clamp. I really like these hand screw clamps. They really get some good force and they can act as like a mace makeshift vise in times. These F-style clamps, I also use. I use those very often, and this hold fast. I really use this thing often. I've got a little like felt pad on the bottom so it doesn't damage my work. But you just slam it down, and your work is not going anywhere. So I really like these hold fast. They're a great way to hold work very easily. And this is my vise, which is also, I'd say it's not completely essential. You can get by using just these, but a vise will be absolutely really helpful in speeding up your work. And this is mine. I just use a hickory vise block against my workbench. And this is a Yost vise. It was like $50. It's not the best, but it works and it's not expensive. So that's all I really needed. And lastly, we got the bench itself. And this bench I built recently on the channel. It's a compact, very kind of small bench. It's got a tool tray. And yes, this bench has absolutely been really helpful to me in my woodworking. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.